The lights went out in Savannah, but the roar got louder. Missouri State didn't ask for the FBS. They kicked the door down. The SWAC, they ain't just prepping. They out here preaching. And from the UAC all the way out in Utah to Texas, it's reload season. You wanted real college football stories? You just found your new plug. This is World of CFB. Let's talk about it. What's wavy? It's your boy Moon back at it again with more college football for you. Credential media member of CFB Nation, the fastest growing college football entity on the planet. And the waviest to ever do it. Back live again. I missed y'all, man. Talking ball. We're going to be talking about the gateway of greatness, Missouri State's leap into the FBS powerhouse, hopefully. We're going to talk about Savannah State and everything that they had to overcome in 2024 season, because you can't just look at the record and just tell that story by itself. You got to actually look at the stories that shaped the program. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some United Athletic Conference news and more. On this episode, special shout out to BetUS, sponsors of this stream, CFB Nation. We appreciate you being in the building early on in your afternoon. We hope that you're having a great day. But we got a lot of things to get to and a lot of things to talk about it. So coming up first on today's show, we'll get into Missouri State and their leap. And we'll take a trip out to Springfield, Missouri, where the Pines don't just sway. They snap. Where Plaster Stadium ain't just a venue, people. In Bear Country, they are not just building a program. They're writing a prophecy to us, the world, for us to see. Under the Ozark sun, something's shifting, and you can feel it. I can feel it. We all can feel it, because Missouri State ain't just casually strolling through the FBS with a handshake. Hey, how you doing? Nah, they're bulldozing the front gate with 11 helmets and one destiny in mind, and that destiny is to change the narrative or burn it down trying. What used to be a dream is now an actual reality and blueprinted destiny for Missouri State and the Tigers, because one spring practice at a time, one violent rep at a time, one believer at a time, they are writing out the blueprint. Coach Ryan Beard, he's not just scheming football, people. He's reprogramming DNA. Intensity is in the ink. Calculated growth is on the paper. And this recruiting class, that's the signature in the dotted line that they needed. In college football, it's about to get hit with a flurry known as Beer Country. The blueprint, though, for all the foundations of great football programs and teams is a guy that just is going to buck the system. And I introduce to you Mr. Ryan Beard. He isn't there to just borrow Bobby Petrino's playbook. He brought his own pen, and he showed up to the party ready to highlight this history of Missouri State and their program. And 2 years in, this dude turned Missouri State into a defensive monster. Great discipline and control violence was his MO. In 2023, he stepped out of Bobby Petrino's shadow with zero fear whatsoever. Ice in his veins. In 2024, he took his squad and make them take a step up like a boxer with nothing to lose at all. 18 all-conference defenders under Coach Beard as defensive coordinator. That's not a trend, people. That's a warning label. And a warning label to the Conference USA, because 4 All-Americans, yep, they accomplished that in 2024. They sent 3 of those guys to the league. 18 soldiers molded from the noise and neglect. And now Coach Beard has 85 scholarships to cook with. FBS infrastructure and the green light to go full Frankenstein mode, because if you're in the Conference USA, you should just pray and then hydrate. You can't talk about the stars of 2025 and what's up to come without mentioning who actually set the flame ablaze and giving ode and our due and our respect to the people that paved the way in 2024. Because before this thing became a war march into the FBS, it was really fire that was lit by these guys. Like Mr. Tyler Wiltz, linebacker with the GPS in his helmet because he was all over the field. 102 tackles, 12 and a half tackles for a loss, and chaos is under his chin strap. This man plays like he has some screws loose, and he's trying to knock people's screws loose. Titus Wall, he has a safety with range. He had 3 picks on the season last year, including a momentum thief versus SDSU, and turn heads and change momentum of that program in that game. Jacob Clark, he was a quarterback turned general for this program who had 2.3K yards, 18 touchdowns, and he was cool like ice espresso. Javon Thomas, actually 1.1 yards on the ground, and he got that juice for you. If you blink, you might miss him. 5,000 total yards that Missouri State had in 2024, year of our Lord. 400 plus points. 3.6K of those yards came through the air. Only 3 teams in school history ever hit those marks. The 2024 Missouri State Bears, they did it in a mid-transition year. That ain't offense. That's orchestration. And I need you to understand that we have to turn the volume all the way up because this recruiting class, this ain't a class. This is nationwide talent robbery that the Missouri State Bears pulled off. His squad, they didn't just recruit. They hit a grand heist on the map, threw the bag over their shoulder, and ran away. They got speed from Miami, toughness from Kentucky, and frame from the Midwest. You know you got to get bigger to play in the Conference USA. They did that. You want numbers? I got names for you. Deuce Bailey, quarterback, 2-time Kentucky State champ, 3.4K yards, 40 touchdowns, and he was calm under siege. King Davis, running back from Miami Central, 11.6 yards per pop. He's explosive like a drum line, on fire. He had offers from Ole Miss, Oregon, and Louisville. Braylon McCullers, he's an edge. He had 20 sacks. Blink, and you might have missed 2 of those. Tristan Gardner, wide receiver from Texas. He played in 6A Texas, big boys. He's a route running scientist for you. Caleb Alabode, a linebacker with 140 tackles, 7 forced fumbles, and he just put blockers into the grass. And then you got DJ Westlyak. He's a crown jewel of the recruiting class, 4-star menace, former Oregon State and Missouri pass rusher who's coming in. He turned down Bama and he turned down Georgia just to come out there to Missouri State and Bear Country. He's not just visiting Springfield. He's kind of come out there and make a name for himself. 9 players with verified Power 4 offers on this roster. Let that sizzle. Let that marinate. This class is fireproof. Let's talk about their schedule, though, because they are running into a gauntlet. You wanted a debut? Well, you got theater. Game 1 at USC, Hollywood, the Coliseum, the echoes of Reggie Bush still hanging in the Raptors, even though they try to seize my boy. 2 weeks later, they play SMU and Plaster. You better believe it's about to be an earthquake out there with all that noise. First FBS home game ever. That's a declaration. The full gauntlet at USC. Lights, camera, collision. You got SMU, historic, at North Texas and at UTEP. Road dogs, you got to get tested early. Versus FIU at home. Versus Kennesaw State at home. Win, and we start rethinking everything about what we had preseason expectations. Speaking of that, Kennesaw State, like up there, top 5 in returning production. Let's just say that. At Louisiana Tech, at Jacksonville State, get your chin checked versus Sam Houston, New Mexico State, and then it culminates versus Liberty. That is in November for the ages. 6 first-time opponents that Missouri State is going to be playing in 2025. Every matchup is going to be a mystery. Every mistake, a knife. And this is not no PowerPoint schedule that you just box it in and check and keep going. This is pressure. And that pressure is going to turn into diamonds or disaster. Springfield, they're not just getting an FBS program. They're getting a mentality check. And the message has been written. And it's going to be written in calluses on your hands, practice sweat, late night shifts in the film room, because we don't have no bowl game in 2025. No playoff dreams, just vision and firework. Placer Stadium, I need y'all to show up because it's a volcano now. It's absolute trench warfare supposed to be going down in the first year Sun Belt Conference play. And Missouri State is the inferno that's waiting on the horizon. One word to define this move into the FBS: relentless. Recruiting flips, no playoff. Still might win 8 games. Week 1 versus USC, we don't care. So what? This program just got one thing on their mind, and that's going forward under Coach Beard's leadership. No seatbelts, no breaks, just belief and bare knuckles. Shout out to you and Bear Country, because Missouri State ain't just showing up in Conference USA saying, oh, well, hey, we're here. Welcome to the party. Nah, you better be ready because this volcano is erupting. Welcome to Bear Country. I'm Moan, and this is the world of CFB. And if you ain't watching now, history sure is. Let's get to it. Welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Monday. It's the jam-packed weekend. Mother's Day. Shout out to you and your mama. Tell her we said Happy Mother's Day here at World of CFB. I mean, we got swamped this weekend. It was crazy. But we happy to get to it on another day of jam-packed college football news, headlines, and stories. We just talked about Missouri State and everything that they have to be up against in the world of college football this year. It's going to be a team that's ready to get it. And I'm putting my money on Missouri State to overachieve expectations in 2025, because why not? This coach is one that can make that jump. We saw Kennesaw State say, hey, Brian Bohannon, I know you've been leading us to the promised land for a long time, mighty long time, but we got to get rid of you after the first season because you couldn't hold up your end of the bargain in the first year. I think Missouri State will have way more patience with Coach Beard, and as they make this jump up into the next part of their schedule in the next frameworks of their program. And I think it's going to be really, really dope just to see. Coming up next in the show, let's take a trip down to Savannah, Georgia, because before there were stats, before there were scores, before a single whistle even blew, the power went out. Not figuratively, not some type of coach speak metaphor that I'm trying to give you. Literally, darkness draped over Savannah, and Savannah State's campus was lights out. There was like a curtain call that came too early. Hurricane Helene rolled through, and it didn't just knock out the electricity. It short-circuited everything, including the timeline for the Savannah State Panthers and Savannah State Tigers in their program. Dorms were like ovens. Classrooms turned into shelters. Cell service, wipe it out. It was gone. And those that didn't evacuate, they slept in the shadows, if they could even sleep at all. The 2024 Savannah State season didn't start with a coin toss. It started with absolute survival. Every yard that they gained after that carved from something deeper. Every tackle, it was made with more meaning. Every rerouted road trip, another stitch in the jersey in the fabric of Savannah State's destiny. This wasn't just a season. I'm Moon, and I'm about to take you through this masterclass in leading through the darkness. November in Columbia, that's when the chapter closed and the legacy actually began. Because by the time that they hit the field against Benedict, the lights were back on, but these weren't the same old Tigers that we were used to. No more emergency lamps, thank God, but no more backup generators humming over the film study, thank God. And no, the season didn't just end with a storybook win. It ended with a 35-27 loss. Sure, collapse. It wasn't even close. Jada Sullivan dropped 400 plus yards, a new school record for Savannah State. And Deshaun Mitchell, 227 yards receiving. That's more than Shannon Sharp ever posted in a single game at Savannah State. We had to go back in the chamber. The scoreboard said Benedict won the game, but the tape said respect us, because that wasn't a moral victory. And I know in college football, the greatest regular season in the sport, survive in advance, as we normally say. You don't have moral victories, but in this one, Savannah State wasn't asking for a handout. It was a resume for what's to come. And if you can see the writing on the wall, you can really see that Savannah State is out here battling everything just to show up and play. Hurricane Helene didn't just cut out the power. She rearranged everything with this team. A home game against Fort Valley moved to their turf. Practice reps, limited, meals, rationed, and focus was absolutely tested. Teammates became lifelines to each other. Leaders, they rose up. Comfort absolutely disappeared, but the game went on. 10 games, 5 of those wins, 3 losses by 1 possession. This wasn't a rebuild, it was a reveal. They were third in the SIAC in passing offense last year, dead last in third down conversions. What does that translate into, Moon? They had fireworks without a fuse box. It wasn't just football for Savannah State. That was just life in general. If you look at the season in its identity, like, and just look beyond drone shot and take a look microscopic level. September 7th at Southern University, they lost 42-10. They gave up 228 yards on the ground. My gosh. Southern didn't outcoach them. They just outstabilized them. September 14th versus Central State. That was a loss, 10-3. They averaged 3.3 yards per play. They played in the fog of Hurricane Helene, and you could feel the weight of that game. September 21st at Tuskegee, they won. First win of the season, 20-16, and that was a turning point for them. Execution, discipline, the tide turned here in their season. September 29th at Fort Valley, they lost 30-0, and everybody kind of didn't really have much to expect from this team because this game was supposed to be a home game for Savannah State. Instead, they got ambushed, and the scoreboard didn't show it all, but there were seeds that were planted. October 5th versus Clark Atlanta on the road, they win 35-28, and Sullivan went stupid. Mitchell, he was unguardable, people. Then identity actually started to take shape. They stringed a back-to-back win, getting a win against Lincoln, where they had 4 takeaways. Defense played with like their hair was on fire. And winning started to actually feel normal again. Then you fast forward to Edward Waters, another win. That's 3 in a row. Ball control, situational football, grown man win on the road versus Lane. 1 point loss, 28-27, and Esquire had 4 sacks. And it still came down to a missed point after attempt. Sometimes pain can be the best lessons for us. November 2nd versus Albany State. They win in a rivalry game. 0 turnovers, poise, and buttoned up approach personified. And then last but not least, Benedict. I mentioned it earlier. A loss, 35-27. If you look at the scoreboard, it was an L. But that tape, it translates over into 2025. The top performers last year, man, Jaden Sullivan, his grad transfer quarterback from Albany State. He just did his thing, man. 1.6K yards, 17 touchdowns. He was the SIAC's best in yards per attempt in the quarterback position. He was the pulse of this team. Deshaun Mitchell, Shannon Sharp's shadow, he wrecked it, shattered. 49 grabs, 913 yards, 9 touchdowns. First team all SIAC certified wide receiver number uno for 100-yard games on the season. Just surgical. Xavier Esquillian, 9.5 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss. And I need you to understand that he's only a sophomore and he was a wrecking ball for this team. His timing is elite. His future bright. And it's super bright under them Savannah State lights. Gary Davis Jr., 59 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, and leadership that you could actually feel on the screen. He was the voice in the huddle, the hammer in the box. That guy knocked some screws loose. And they killed Alec Booker. 4 interceptions on the season and in the spring. He has eyes like a hawk, and he roams the secondary with a menacing sense of urgency. He's the next face of the secondary. Spring camp came, and it was good. Session 1, it was resets because it was helmets only, and the intensity still was there, though. Jaden Adams was sharp. Barbus got loud, and David set the tone. Booker, he was locked in. Session 2, he put the pads on. You can really start to see where Savannah State is when you start putting the pads on. And the pads is cracking. Kelton's voice was echoing across the field and really getting his hands on this team. If you need to know, Esquillian wrecked every single thing in session 2 of spring practices. He did. Walker Jr., he dropped 40-yard bombs like it was nothing. The defense responded. Practice felt like combat, which it should be in spring ball. Then you fast forward to the orange and blue game. Everybody's showing up. There's a lot of anticipation. There's a new fresh energy in the air as we see across the entire nation because everybody has a new sense of oomph in their step, a little sense of urgency increase. The defense started off absolutely guns a-blazing, 23-13 lead. Booker, he had 2 picks on the day. Jones had a sack. It was good to see. The offense eventually found their rhythm. Patterson and Richard Williams, 31-yard touchdown on the board. Walker Jr. to Eric Gilbert. Yes, Eric Gilbert. 39-yard rope. And Caleb Barbis, 74 total yards. I love it. The final score for the spring game was 40-29 offense, and it was a statement because we talked about them not having a fuse box. Well, that fuse was lit. When we talk about what they're bringing in this season, Anthony Wilson, GHSA, double A, defensive player of the year, 123 tackles on the season, 28 tackles for a loss, people, and 4 picks. This kid is going to come in and make impact immediately. Rico Collins, 112 tackles, and a hometown hero from Jenkins High. Savannah already rides for this kid. He's going to have people showing up, and he's going to have the fan favorite badge. Taj Jensen, 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles in spring, Florida built, and he's a slot killer. Cameron Jones, 6'3", crisp routes, physical frame, wide receiver 1 potential. And you talk about the defense, Caleb Barbis was a spring game riser for me. Early enrollee, already making defenders regret things. Plus, they got transfers from Coastal Carolina, St. Francis, and Kentucky Christian. This class is going to come in, provided a much needed spark in my veins, and it's headline material for you. And I know a lot of people are not giving Savannah State their roses, but I mean, at the helm, it starts at the top and it works our way all the way down. Aaron Kelton, builder of the roots, not just the wins. He's an MIT grad. Psychology, mind. He has the X's and O's, and now he's just trying to find his Jimmys and Joes. He's a locker room architect, and he doesn't just coach the game for you. He molds men, and that's what you want. Last year, 2024, it molded Savannah State. And you need a coach that can continue to have transfers that can come in, that he can mold, recruits that can come in that will flip their recruitment for him. Why? Because he can set the tone. He can set the structure, the belief, because it all flows from the top down in Kelton's blueprint for this team. And the foundation he's building is made to last, even through the storms and hurricanes that comes through life. And my overall final reflection, you can't just pull up Savannah State's record and think that you get the whole entire story. You had to actually be there. You had to see them go powerless and be sweated in rooms. You had to hear the hum of emergency generators going off during film. You had to feel the silence that turned into hunger. This team didn't just actually survive the storm. Their season was very much a storm, and they became it. A school record wide receiver, a generational linebacker class, a quarterback with some vision and some talent, a locker room that's full of loyalty because a lot of these guys didn't switch up even though they had the opportunity to. The eye of the storm is officially past Savannah State, and the roar is rising now. Let's talk about it. What's wavy? It's your boy Moon, and you turn into World of College Football, hosted by CFB Nation, sponsored by BetUS, where you can get, never mind, hit this ad and let them tell you what we can do.
Look at you out here using all these other sports books, and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS. Get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the off season, even though we don't celebrate that. CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7, but there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money. Go get that money, twin. What's wavy? It's boy Moon, and this is World of College Football. We already talked about Missouri State and the Bears. Shout out to Bear Country. We love you. Can't wait to see you on the CFB Nation tour this year. Shout out to Savannah State. We talked about them as well and all the things that they had to endure in the 2024 season, year of our Lord. They're over there watching us in Decatur, Georgia, Fredericksburg, Virginia. Shout out to y'all. We got to take a look, drone shot on the SWAC conference and HBCU football as a whole, because there's so many moving parts and pieces that's going on. And if you blink, you can miss some action that's going on. So I'm going to tell you, over the last month or so about what's the latest from SWAC and the news in this little segment that I like to call Around the World with the Moon. The spring sun, it's setting, but that fire, I don't know if you can feel it or not, but it's being lit, man. There's something sacred about this time of the year in the SWAC football. Cleats on turf, horns blaring, coaches pacing like prophets with the whistles in their mouths. And behind it all, it's hope. That's really the word that I look at and I say for this season. And I say that there's hope all across the board. Hope, that quiet, swelling kind that just brews and breeds this internal belief that, man, this year can be different for us. And that kind doesn't just speak loud. It just means everything. That hope is everything. And recently, that hope had a pulse in the SWAC. Not just in the touchdown tosses or the goal line stands, but like in the locker room conversations and being on the field and seeing it. It's in the way that the kids dap up their coaches after practice, or how the tempo shifts because there's a sense of urgency, or a transfer player just came in, or you see that player that was there last year, he's making that next step up. But, if we're going to talk about the SWAC, we're going to have to talk about it. So let's do it in some style, and let's talk about what other people won't. Let's spin the map and take a drone shot view and take our talents all the way out to Huntsville, Alabama, first and foremost. It took only one play for things to get spicy. One perfect spiral from Cornelius Brown IV and to Frank Pierre, 75 yards, untouched. A spring game debut, so cold, so grimy. It cracked the ear. Sam Shade's era ain't just warming up, people. It's sprinting full tilt. And Alabama A&M and Huntsville, if I had to say a post what's going on, I would say it's pressure, but not in a way that, bursts pipes, but that makes diamonds, because the pressure is increasing, the tempo is increasing, and they ultimately came out of the spring game with clean health. Everybody is healthy. That's what you can hope for. The best ability is availability, as they would like to say. And that's what wins. Coaches win springs because it's growth over everything, development over everything. 75 yards on play one of the game, that showed me one thing. It's a clear identity shift. No lab coach are showing up right now. Sam Shade, he is executing. And that is what you want to see if you're an Alabama A&M fan out there. I know we're still riding the high horse because Carson Vincent got drafted. Shake my hand. Shake my hand. But this year, it ain't just about the Bulldogs' approach and how we're viewed in the SWAC. I think the Bulldogs have the talent to be viewed in the FCS national picture too. They just have to keep executing. Coming up next, let's take a trip out to Norman, Mississippi, because Alcorn State, listen, the most underrated move in the SWAC this offseason and this spring is Alcorn partnering with Athlete Talk, because mental health is important and mental health reps are treated like weight room sets for this program. Not soft, but smart and playing heady, because they're developing warriors. And to do that, you have to not only do that physically, but you have to do that mentally. And when you talk about being sideline to sideline, you want to be sideline to sideline in your mind too. If you got all the intangibles, but you can't think straight, then it's going to affect you on the football field. And Alcorn State did what most won't or are uncomfortable to talk about, which is they gave their players mental mind reps, because that translates over to muscle reps. And Alcorn State's is refining what development actually looks like for their program. We just talked about it in owning the spring, and they own the spring, partnering with Athletes Talk to cater to their players' mental health. I love to see it. That was one of my feel good stories. And the rest of the league, I think they should catch up, because this is something that is a green light and should continue to see all across college football. Let's take a trip to Daytona Beach, Florida, where Bethune-Cookman, the gold team, got the win in the spring game, but the defense, they owned the day across the board, with Otis Mounds and Robert Wimberly tag teaming the headset. The front seven, they played like their hair was on fire and they were possessed. But let's not bury the hatchet right now. The quarterback battle is an actual dilemma for Bethune-Cookman, and it's also a cinema too. I mean, Cameron Ransom, Walt Simmons III, we got Timmy McClain, 3 different styles of boxers, 3 different stories and routes and paths just to even get to Bethune-Cookman. But one job is on the line, and none of them have blinked. And this is making for absolute cinema for us. Dante Pendleton was dialing plays, and he had a juice run game. This offense's potential is going to be like chaos for the rest of the SWAC. And this is waiting to blossom on the gridiron in 2025. 3 quarterbacks, 0 turnovers, 1 brewing storm, and whoever wins the job might just tilt the race for the SWAC in the East. Let's take a trip to Florida, in Tallahassee. Florida A&M fans, stand up, because that's what they were doing at Bragg Memorial Stadium, because it was buzzing. The orange and green game, it was straight fireworks for you. And what you need to know coming out of that spring game for Florida A&M is that they had a modified scoring system, but it still was the same result ultimately. The offense found rhythm. That's what you need to see. Thad Franklin, he got it popped off. He broke off a 50-yard run that shifted the entire atmosphere. Tyler Jefferson, he threw with some pop, some precision, and he targeted Traven Green, and he looked seasoned. Defense, they look deeper, faster, hungrier, playing with a different type of edge and bravado, which you would want to see. And then came the news. Travis Jones is coming home. Coffeyville to FAMU. Big Ben's own. Stand up. And another weapon and another circle completed. This roster is going to be fascinating to watch in 2025, because they put up 4 quarterbacks, 59 points, 1 hometown hero coming back. And FAMU, they're stacking right now. Let's take a trip in the world to Grambling, Louisiana, and Grambling State, because Mickey Joseph doesn't want anything pretty. He wants pain tolerance to increase. The gold team put up a 21-0 shutout, and he made it feel like a funeral march. Tessit, he threw 2 touchdowns. Byron Eaton Jr., he broke off a 57-yard run that was just chef's kiss. More. Just perfect for you. Made us all lean in and say, uh-oh. The offensive line, they bullied everything. That's what you want to see from Grambling State. That identity, hard nose, blue collar, run it down your throat type mentality. But Coach Joseph, after the game, he said, we run it to throw it. not throw it to run it. And that's the philosophy. And the message, hey, shake my hand. It was received. 21-0 scoreline for Grambling State. 5 running backs ended up toting that thing and rotating in the depth chart. And you have one identity that was clear. Grambling State is not guessing who they are in 2025. Grambling State is lining up and saying, I dare you to stop me. Jackson State and Jackson, Mississippi. The spring game had to be moved indoors, and it still didn't matter. Walton Payton Center turned into a gladiator pit so quickly. Jacorian Morgan, he was in full senior mode. Defense, they were still sharp from the Celebration Bowl. Special teams, dialed in, locked in. But the most dangerous part is Jackson State's depth. Terrell is back. Portal's been kind and lovely to us. TC Taylor's continue to restock, and he's doing it with intention. I mean, the Celebration Bowl's hangover, you couldn't tell that there's a trace of hangover from winning a chip because they brought the energy from outdoors in the practices throughout the whole spring to indoors in the spring game. And this is showcasing me that no matter what life seems to be throwing right now at TC Taylor and at Jackson State, they just seem to be conquering and conquering and conquering. In my opinion, they still are the odds-on favorite to win the SWAC in 2025, year of our Lord. Until somebody shows me otherwise, because depth is the main thing that is needed to make deep playoff runs and deep runs, not only for the SWAC title, but to be playing in December, first bowl game that pops off the rest of the 40 plus. You know, Celebration Bowl is still on the identity for Jackson State. Let's take a trip to Prairie View, Texas. Prairie View A&M. Now, they got a new hire in Tremaine Jackson, but he's not here for your mama's type of slow cooking where you put the pot roast in. Nah, he brought an absolute flamethrower to practice. National title experience from his time at Valdosta State, that is. AFCA Coach of the Year. Now he's back to where he belongs, but he's doing it with purpose. Fans already have been showing up in the spring game. Purple and Gold was a movie, but I'm more interested in Prairie View to see how they continue to stack after those 13 practices. And you got the ultimate tone setter in the spring game. And in my opinion, Prairie View might be one of the teams that we need to put the money on, because from what I've seen, they're stacking it together. Now, quarterback position is not the only one. It's the most important, but it's not the only one. They seem to be recruiting in the best ways for them and what they want to create their identity. And Tremaine Jackson, if we look at his time at Valdosta State, you'll be able to say, what was their identity? Smash mouth, bully ball. We look forward to seeing that in August for you, Prairie View A&M fans. Let's take a trip to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We got to talk about a quarterback war. So, for Southern University, Woods might be the quarterback one right now, on paper at least. But Jamari Jones, he's not reading the paper, and he's like Geno Smith. He didn't get the memo. He's writing the paper and saying, you know what, scratch that man name out of here. I'm quarterback number one. 3 straight drives for a touchdown in the red zone. That's nasty work. He's a dual threat, but he's in command. You know, you want dual threat quarterbacks to choose the pocket before you have to navigate outside of it, right? He has the ability to do that. He's not a run first guy. He's a dot first, then run if I have to type of guy. And he can play with that type of tenacity that's ice cold. If I had to say my favorite, I would say Jamari Jones is my favorite to be the quarterback for Southern University. But Coach Graves, he kept it classy. He said it's still Woods' job to lose. That's what you expect the coach to say. But make no mistake about it, that quarterback competition is cooking up at Southern University, and it's better than a gumbo. 3 touchdowns in 10 minutes is what you need to know. One flame lit under quarterback number 1, and there's some controversy brewing, not in a negative way, but just in a way that's going to raise the elevation of all parties involved. You know, they say rising tides raise all ships, right? It's going to be the same thing. In Southern's quarterback room, It's pressure packed. And that actually might be the best thing when you're cooking. And maybe that's a blessing in disguise for Southern University. Let's take a trip and navigate our way just so far a little west to Houston, Texas, and Texas Southern. Because it's not flashy, but not yet. But it's focused. It's clear focus right now for Texas Southern. Defense won the day in their spring game. They had 31-10 was the final of the spring finale. Jordan Davis, he had his moments. Javon Buckley, he made plays, what you expect. The offensive rhythm, though, is still coming together. It's still working together for Texas Southern. How fast do they get that curve? It's still us to wait and see. Coach Dishman, his eyes is on Prairie View and Tremaine Jackson coming up because all eyes is on Atlanta. Nothing else besides that. They got 15 practices to get closer, and their defense definitely took absolute strides. But their offense, we're going to have to wait and see for what Texas Southern can tap into their bag. They're not there for hype. I get it. But the season is getting closer and closer. And they have to absolutely finish the deal in 2025. Let's take a trip to Arkansas and Pine Bluff, Arkansas to be exact. Quietly, UAPB is building, but not for any noise, for impact. April 26th, black and gold game, we saw some strides. Regardless of how you want to label it, regardless of them being bottom of the SWAC, whatever, we saw some strides from last year. There was a lot of things that was going down, whether it was the black and gold game, Founders Week. The whole city can be behind this team if they really lock in and get their things together. I mean, the band is loaded, fans is loaded, community is loaded too. And the scrimmage, they got some firepower now. It's not going to be easy and by any stretch of the imagination because there's just too many contenders and a couple of pretenders in this conference. But from their 10 practices that they ended up having, they showed out to support. And I just want to say that when you're going through, spring ball, it's some of the most joyful times of the year if you're a fan, especially of HBCU football, because there's a lot to love already. But can our team just get it together? Because everybody has expectations and aspirations for a Celebration Bowl. Everybody. When you're looking at spring ball, this is soul work because it works on your soul. From an HBCU-led mental health revolution that they got going on at Alcorn State to under-the-radar quarterbacks that are trying to secure battles. The SWAC, they gave us smoke, soul, storylines, little controversy when it comes to acquisitions in the coaching ranks. And I feel like the overall play and competitive juice for the Sun Belt took a collective step up. The middle of the pack for the Sun Belt took a step up. And I think it's going to get more spicy. That's why you want to watch and tune in to CFB Nation, because that's why we're here. That's what we do, to cover it like it matters, because it does. I'm on. This is what the CFB and the SWAC. Yeah, it's definitely deeper than football, my friend. What's wavy? Welcome to the show on another day in May, Monday. Hopefully you're having another just beautiful day so far and enjoying your afternoon. We already talked about Missouri State and the Bears. We talked about Savannah State and the Tigers and everything that they had to overcome and allowing their roar to return in 2025. We just went around the world in the SWAC, and we're coming to the tail end of the show. But before we get into it, special shout out to CFB Nation and you and yours watching, and special shout out to BetUS. If you use that promo code, they're going to hook you up, because who don't want to save some money, especially in the springtime? We'll be right back after this short ad break.
Look at you out here using all these other sports books and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS, get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly, 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the all season, even though we don't celebrate that. CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7, but there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money. We'll talk about HBCU football, FCS, FBS. It don't matter. If you strap up and lace them up, we'll try to give you some love on the show. And on this special segment of Around the World, I want to take a look at some of the FCS storylines that have been captivating my attention, and I'm sure that it'll captivate yours too. Let's take a look in drone shot and then microscopically to the United Athletic Conference in the FCS, because there's some power players in this conference, some that are trying to make their way back to playoff contention, and others that are trying to recreate identities for their program. The winds are shifting out west. The trenches, they're stacking in Texas and across the UAC. The fire's already lit, just like the rest of the nation. We're in that beautiful football limbo part of the time of the year where winter turns into summer grind and spring ball kind of makes its way out of here, and we get a chance to just let the dust settle. And in this league, the United Athletic Conference, nothing ever sits still. Everything is constantly moving. And we're not just here for fluff. We're here for the headlines. We're going to tell you what's going on, but with substance. So let's walk through the UAC, United Athletic Conference, and let's go straight to it. The first team I'm going to talk about is Abilene Christian. We got to talk about the ones that get the money first. You want grind? Abilene Christian absolutely lived and embraced the grind this past year. If you want a deep playoff run, they checked that box. Midweek recruiting, they checked that box. They did that. A coordinator shuffle and don't blink and not flinch. They did that. Stone Earl is back. Graham Harrell is calling the shots. Yeah, that Graham Harrell. Yeah. And the Rowland twins and Caden Carr, they're absolute monsters up front. For me, Abilene Christian isn't resetting. They are reassembling a firepower unit that had one playoff win, 18 signees, one air raid system. And you know I love the air raid. The air raid is amazing. This team is not patching holes like others in the Sun Belt. They're chasing trophies. And that's what you want at the top of the UAC. Coming up next, Austin Peay in Clarksville, Tennessee. They were quiet, intentional, calculated, buttoned up, exactly what you would hope for out of Austin Peay. Spring camp finally wrapped up for them, but the plan is still unfolding for them. They still have some time, but they got multiple ways that they can stamp their identity in this year. September 13th, everything begins for Austin Peay. They have October 26th game versus University of North Alabama, and this could be the program moment that they're looking for. If you want to talk about metrics, CFB Nation Key metric, they have 5 home games and 1 farewell at the end of the season. And every detail is going to matter so much for Austin Peay. They're not trying to just make noise in the UAC. They're trying to build through pressure right now. Let's take a drone shot look at Carrollton, Georgia, and West Georgia. Spring ball for them, they just hit different. They are looking at the future and also in the past. They did a great job of coming together during spring ball. You can tell that the team is closer. From everything that I'm looking at, it seems like West Georgia is collectively taking strides and is prowling their way all the way through the UAC standings, and they should get some respect this season. Now, the reason why they're honoring the past is because they have a Wolves legend and an All-American and pro, Alex Arma, who got recognized into the Hall of Fame, and he finally got that call. I saw that, and I was like, yo, anytime you can blend past and present, like you see other programs doing in the college football world, you're going to get a collective handshake from on. And I think that that's looking forward to what there can be in their identity for this year. Everything is starting to become, new at West Georgia. And in Carrollton, the vibes are high. That program is going to show up and that fan base is going to show out for them. They were last year, they were top 10 in sacks. Like we have to be honest with ourselves with West Georgia and take them seriously. They're not gonna sneak up on people because last year they already did. But this year, Carrollton is gonna be buzzing, and make sure in the UAC that you pay attention what's going on in West Georgia. Let's take a trip out to Richmond, Kentucky, and Eastern Kentucky. Anybody that's out there that wants violence and they love football that's violent, raise your hand. All right, I see you. I see you over there. I see you too. I see you too. All right, appreciate you. This is a team that can be violent. Eastern Kentucky, they just look in the trenches. Their offensive line lost 3 playoff vets. Now they got a room full of dudes that is hungry and scratching, itching to get out there. Eskridge from Norfolk State. They got Schlarman with the bloodline approach. You got Coach Ravelette, who loves it grimy. This is like nasty offensive lineman. And they're stacking every single rep like you will want to. I just want to focus on the offensive line because you want bullies down there. They had 2.7K yards rushing last year. And the entire offensive line basically is up for grabs, but it's full of young dudes that had to wait. And the new guys is coming in ready to bring Eastern Kentucky's identity out full tilt in their next push. They got to make stars with their hands in the dirt. Skill positions, cool. But if you can bully and sign up for violence every Saturday, week in and week out, teams are not going to want to play you. Eastern Kentucky and Richmond, y'all got something brewing. Let's take a trip to Florence, Alabama, home of North Alabama, because this is it. This year is it. Soak it up, North Alabama fans. Brayley Stadium is getting one last victory lap, one last ride in 2025. In the spring game, they did their best to honor the past and the present, true, because they brought back some champions. The 1995 title squad brought them back, honored them. Legends, legends of the game. But it pointed towards the future and said, look, this is our last time being in the stadium at Bobby Wallace Field. That's opening next. This season is going to be so much more than just wins for North Alabama. It's an actual curtain call with a purpose. 76 games that they've hosted, and it'll be their 76th homecoming this year. And it's going to be the last hurrah for this North Alabama program at home. So you can bet your bottom dollar that if there's any ticket in town to bet that's going to be popping this year, North Alabama is definitely doing that. And it's going to be a season full of emotion and momentum for North Alabama. Let's take a trip out there to the great state of Utah, in Cedar City, Utah, because we got to forget the stats and let's just talk straight ball and impact real quick. They had a be the match drive, and it was just absolutely crazy. Their former linebacker, Dylan Smith, ended up getting a call, flew to Washington, D.C., donated bone marrow, and gave somebody else a shot at life. If you talk about ball in the football field, this team has a lot of bright spots. I'm going to get to that in a second. But outside of that, you want to see teams, just like we talked about earlier in the show with Alcorn State, investing outside of just football. I'm a spotlight that because he gave somebody a shot at life, donating bone marrow. They do this all the time. Southern Utah has the annual Be the Match drive. And I just wanted to spotlight that on the show because it's so much bigger than football. And you love to see feel-good stories and sports that hit deeper than just the shoulder pads and spring practice. And to me, that's bigger than any spring scrimmage that they can have because Coach Fitzgerald, he's going to always preach the identity of being 1% better on and off the field. And to me, in the spring, they proved that. They got hundreds of people to register in the game. They ended up saving somebody's life and honoring the legacy. And that legacy seems to be built beyond just a gridiron, but actually built with soul because they care. So shout out to Southern Utah and Cedar City. Let's take a trip to Central Arkansas and Conway to be exact. Nothing is on autopilot right now for Central Arkansas. Nathan Brown is back on the headset and he is ready to go for jugglers. They got some new play callers. You got a quarterback battle that's going on that you would love to see. And the defense, they ultimately passed the torch. Austin Myers, he ended up leading with poise. They got this kid named Richardson and Koger. They are just like right there. They are right on the verge of taking that next step, like my guy Nino says, taking the next step. They are right on the cusp. But ultimately, for that job, you have to earn it. Nothing's going to be handed to you. And on defense, Jacoby Shell, just remember that name. He just put on the jersey number 8. And that 8 jersey in Central Arkansas carries a whole different meaning. It's like, you know how LSU for a long time had like the number 7. I think they still have it where like that 7 jersey, like the best player on the team or the most dominant player usually gets that jersey. Well, I think it was like Tyrann Mathieu, Patrick Peterson, like you can go on and on, but that's the same type of gist that you get from Central Arkansas. And this kid, Jacoby Shell, he is chasing legacy because he got that jersey. Watch out for him in the defense. CFB and HQ metric, they have 5 turnovers forced in the spring game, 3 quarterbacks inserted into the mix, and a jersey that has way more than the meaning right now in Central Arkansas because they're chasing greatness. Let's talk about Tarleton State as we wind down. The spring game that happened in Tarleton State, it was storybook for them. Peyton Kramer balled out. He got his scholarship call too. So you love to see programs honoring kids with that scholarship call. You saw Colorado do it earlier in the FBS this year. Player earned his scholarship in the linebacker room. Then you saw moments like this at Tarleton State. And Jeremiah Postel ended up snatching a pick, and he got his name called too for a scholarship. So moments like that brings life, breathes life into a locker room, into college football. Tylen Hines did his job. He ended up scoring late. The offense won 56-46. So fireworks galore. But the real winner for Tarleton State was the culture. The culture is definitely brewing right now. They got T-minus 100 days plus to sharpen before week 0 hits. And things start to feel really different right now in Tarleton State. They got 2 scholarship players that earned, and they got proof right now. They got proof that they are passing the tests and the check marks that they need to. And last but not least, I didn't put them last because they got the letter U. But Utah Tech in St. George, Utah. Lance Anderson, he's got layers to him. He reminds me of Shrek. You know how Shrek said, I'm an old guy. I got layers. That's what Lance Anderson has too. He has 32 returners that's coming and 44 newcomers on his roster. That's a blueprint and not a depth chart. 3 quarterbacks, 3 with starts, and then we have 9 offensive linemen with game reps, live action. And this is the crazy part. 11 of last year's top tacklers are back for Utah Tech. Spring scrimmage was crazy. Fireworks. They got madness in the transfer portal and got some games. They got some key returnees that happen. They don't have to restart. They don't have to really, they're reloading, but they don't have to restart. They're driving, but they're doing it with the sort of precision. But they got 2 hands on the wheel, the classic get her job done. You know what I mean? That's Lance Anderson's Utah Tech ball club right now. And, you know, from coast to coast, from Utah all the way out to Texas, from Texas to Georgia, the United Athletic Conference as a whole seems to have an unwavering belief that they're going to get 1% better. And if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, only one team is going to get a bid out of this conference for the FCS playoffs. Only one. So, with that being said, if I had to give my early favorite, you can obviously go with the popular pick with Abilene Christian, but I'm going to say North Alabama. It's the final hurrah for them. That's my odds-on favorite to win the conference this year, but my dark horse is West Georgia. Going with West Georgia. There's a lot of teams getting a lot of love from Eastern Kentucky out there to Austin P, from West Georgia all the way to Southern Utah and Central Arkansas. But those teams, they matter in the college football ecosystem because on the World of College Football, hosted by your boy Moon, we got to make sure we cover everybody because everybody needs some love too, you know? For a jam-packed show where we talked about Missouri State, Savannah State, HBCU football, and the SWAC, and took you around the world in the United Athletic Conference. You know, you got to make sure you stay informed. Make sure you stay loaded. Check out dcfbnation.com for all of the latest in the college football world. We'd love to connect with you more on Twitter at DCFBNation. Special shout out to the team and the guys. I know the governor is going live very soon. Super excited. I'll be excited for governor shows more than I'll be excited for mine. I'll be ready. Make sure y'all tune in to that 4:00 on the dot. Tune in. And keep it locked to Word of College Football. Tomorrow we're going to be going live because I'm going to be talking about my top 25 spring rankings because I have some gears to grind. I just want to say I already had Clemson as my number one before it was popular by mainstream media. I'll just say that. We're going to talk about top 25 picks and post spring. We did it last week, but I haven't talked to you independently about what I think. And do I have some teams that are out? You know, have I changed my mind on some teams? We'll talk about that tomorrow, and also some more stories that we have. Keep it locked. If you like the content, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment. I love comments. Comment. Let me know what you think about what we talked about in the show. And until next time, this is going to be available on Spotify very, very soon. And I hope that y'all have an amazing jam-packed Monday that's full of just great vibes. And remember, college football is the greatest sport on the planet Earth. And here we like to focus and cover everybody from the big guys like Clemson to the little guys that think that they big dogs like Abilene Christian. You feel me? We got to make sure everybody gets the love. This is the world of college football. Until next time, my friend, stay wavy.